First, I'm going to share my understanding of the significance of Sangha and invite your questions and comments during and after the talk. So you have an index card and a pen to use during the talk. Adana didn't give you one. Sorry, I didn't think you'd need one. You have a good memory. So you can write down during the talk any of your comments or questions, and then we can talk about that at the end. So let's begin with Thich Nhat Hanh's description of Sangha. He said, a true Sangha is not yet. Oh. Sorry. I'm confusing you. A true Sangha is a community that practices the teachings of liberation and becomes free. A true Sangha practices the teaching of understanding and becomes more understanding. A true Sangha practices compassion and becomes more compassionate. You might recognize some of those words because we say them in the contemplation before sitting. We say them in the beginning, welcome, and the check-in. We say all of these things. We talk about what are we inviting, and people say compassion, and they say freedom, and they say peace. So all of these words are very familiar to us. And another definition, Thai says, a Sangha is a community of friends practicing the Dharma together in order to bring about and to maintain awareness. The essence of a Sangha is awareness, understanding, acceptance, harmony, and love. And just a few minutes ago in the refuge chant, we said, I take refuge in the Sangha, a community that lives in harmony and awareness. So we're right on target with Thai's definition of Sangha. Now let's look at the pictures. This image, I saw this years ago and just came up in my computer, and I was just fascinated by it. It's a hand, carved hand, seemingly holding up the tree. And the reason I like it in this particular talk is because it reminds me of the position, the role, and the significance of the Sangha. The Sangha is the hand holding up the two branches of the tree. And it says to me, if there's no Sangha, or if the Sangha is not strong, the branches, the Buddha and the Dharma, will not be supported. And without that support, they will lose their power. So the Sangha gives life to the Buddha and the Dharma, supports it, makes it real. A strong Sangha also provides an environment for each of us to grow in our practice. Go ahead. These are the questions that I will be asking during the talk. What is a Sangha? What is the role of a Sangha? What is the significance of Sangha in Buddhism and Buddhist practice? What do you receive from the Sangha? What do you contribute to the Sangha? Those are the things that I will go over in this talk. Some of them obviously refer to you, and so you will be asked to give your input. Let's look at the next slide. This is Thai's really beautiful explanation of why we take refuge in the Sangha. And I would love for one of you to read that. Actually, June, since you're close to the mic, maybe you would read it.
Sure. Taking refuge in the Sangha is a very important practice. Abandoned, alone, you get lost, you get carried away. So taking refuge in the Sangha is a very deep practice, especially for those of you who feel vulnerable, shaky, agitated, and unstable. That is why you come to a practice center to take refuge in the Sangha. You allow the Sangha to transport you like a boat so that you can cross the oceans of sorrow. And I think we have one newcomer. Do you mind providing us kind of a one-line definition of Sangha again?
Well, one line, yes. Basically, a Sangha is a community of friends who gather to study Buddhist teachings and the Dharma. So let's look at the next slide. This is a picture of people leaving the meditation hall at Magnolia Grove Monastery. And for me, it's a reminder of Thai's calligraphy, go as a river. If we are one drop of water, we will evaporate very quickly. But if we join other drops to make a river, we will go as a Sangha and be sure to arrive at the ocean. We also have that in the contemplation before sitting. It's at the very beginning where we say the Sangha is invited to go back to our breathing so that our collective consciousness of mindfulness brings us together as one organism, going as a river with no more separation. So let's look at the next slide. This is Thai's really beautiful calligraphy, go as a river. And as I said earlier, we heard the contemplation before sitting with this very wording. The calligraphy is a beautiful reminder of our interbeing nature and the power of collective energy. That collective energy is what the Sangha provides. Okay. So earlier, Ty said, sorry, I don't know why I didn't write this in my notes, but I didn't, so I have to look over here. What did Ty mean when he said, I take refuge in the Sangha is not a statement, is a practice? That's what I read at the very beginning. And he describes practice as two kinds of practice. There's what he called a devotional practice, and there's what he calls transformational practice. They're different only in a very, not very consequential way, but in a distinctive way. So the first devotional practice is very sincere, but it only indicates one's willingness to practice. For instance, when you say, I take refuge in the Dharma or the Sangha, you may be showing your faith in it, but it's not the same as practicing the Dharma. And I want to read from this book, For a Future to be Possible. Ty, as usual, says things much better than I can. So I'm just going to read what he says about devotional practice. In Buddhism, there are two kinds of practice, devotional and transformational. To practice devotion is to rely primarily on the power of another who may be a Buddha or a God. To practice transformation is to rely more on yourself and the path you are following. So to continue. When you say, I take refuge in the Dharma, you may be showing your faith in it, but that is not the same thing as practicing Dharma. To say, for instance, I want to be a doctor is an expression of the determination to practice medicine. But to become a doctor, you have to spend 7 or 8 years studying and practicing medicine. When you say, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, this may be only the willingness to practice. It is not because you make this statement that you are already practicing. You enter the path of transformation when you begin to practice the things you pronounce. And just let that sink in. You begin to transform when you're practicing the things you're reading or pronouncing. So when you say, I take refuge in the Dharma, you're expressing confidence in the Dharma. You see the Dharma as something wholesome and you want to orient yourself toward it. That's devotion. But when you study and apply the Dharma in your daily life, that's a transformational practice. Does that make sense to you? Do you see the distinction? Now, it's important to remember that these two things are not, there's no boundary between them. One's not better than the other. They're both very wonderful and necessary. In fact, most of us begin in the phase of devotional practice. We understand the beauty of the words. We understand the energy behind the words, and maybe we're not quite practicing yet with the things that we're reading about. I'll give you an example, and I think you may also recognize this in yourself. When I first started reading the 5 mindfulness trainings, and when I took that transmission, I really think I was in the devotional stage, because I liked the words, I liked the choice of following that path, and I was inspired by it. What I noticed, however, is that as I began to just simply reading the mindfulness trainings once a month, usually with friends, because that's very helpful, I began to notice changes in the way I was behaving. I wasn't studying, I wasn't meditating rigorously. I was simply reading the 5 mindfulness trainings with friends, and then later the 14 mindfulness trainings. And without any other effort, I began to notice that my life was changing. I was becoming more patient. I was becoming more compassionate. All kinds of things that, it was inherent in me as it is in you, but I wasn't necessarily always practicing it. And so just by simply reciting the 5 mindfulness trainings and then later the 14 with friends, I began to notice these changes in myself. So maybe some of you have had a similar experience, because I know many of you have received the 5 mindfulness trainings. Have you noticed in yourself that there's something about you that's a little bit different in the way that you respond to people, or in the way that you respond to traffic or lines at the supermarket or whatever? So I would like you to think about that, and maybe on that card, write one way that you find that your life has changed just by simply reading the 5 mindfulness trainings, or being in Sangha, or being kind of introduced to Buddhist philosophy. How has that changed you, if it has? And is there anything else that you feel you've received from your practice with the Sangha? Maybe write that down as well. While you finish your writing it, we're just going to look at the next slide, and you can look at it when you're ready. This is simply what I call practice options. And it's just a list of the things that are available, some of the things that are available here at the Meditation Center. We are very lucky at this center to have several Sanghas meeting. And I want to be sure that we all understand that the Dallas Meditation Center is not a Sangha. It is the place where the Sanghas meet. The Sanghas are Awakening Heart Sangha on Sunday, Mindful Mondays Sangha on Monday, Wake Up Yes Group on Tuesday, and Wednesday Interbeing Sangha, and then noon meditation Monday through Thursday. So we have a lot of Sanghas that meet here. And you might even consider, and I do, the Mindful the Grief Support Group, a Sangha. The book club is a Sangha. So those are some other things. And then there's yoga, which is fairly new. And I don't know how many people come, but that becomes a Sangha as well, because people are coming together to practice. And even if you're practicing yoga, you're practicing Buddhism to some extent. Something very, very close anyway. So the Dallas Meditation Center is unique in Texas and maybe in a lot of the country because we have our own building. Most Sanghas in Texas rent space in a church or a yoga center. And because of that, they are most kind of, I would say, confined to just have one Sangha meeting a week. So they can't diversify as much as we're able to do here. And I bring that up because I think it's important for us to remember that we are providing a unique service to this community by having so many choices of ways to connect. And so when we're talking with people or when we're inviting people to come, let's remember to tell them, maybe not brag that we're unique, but also to say that this is a very special place. And when you come, you will be treated like a special person. You will be treated with respect and given. I know of in Texas, the Austin Sangha, they do meet in a yoga center, but they also offer fairly frequent days of mindfulness, but they meet in somebody's home. The Austin Sangha also provides a yearly retreat. So even though they can't have as many sanghas, as many events as we have, they do have retreat and these days of mindfulness. Now, here at the Meditation Center, we have days of mindfulness as well. In fact, one of them is coming up at the end of January. So in that day of mindfulness, usually, let me back up. Usually we just do a half a day, but this time we're going to do the whole day. And what we will do is practice meditation. We'll do walking. We'll do some interesting kind of creative things because that's part of our mission statement. And also, Cornell and I will offer deep relaxation and touching the earth as part of this day of mindfulness. What I would like to see is people from all of our sanghas coming together so that we begin to get to know one another. So that we have people from this sangha, people from the Monday night sangha, the Tuesday night sangha, the Wednesday night sangha, so that we all and noon all getting to know one another as the big awakening heart community. That's what our program says, the Awakening Heart Community of Mindful Living. And we don't all know one another if we're primarily coming to this Sangha or primarily going to the Tuesday night Sangha. So our hope is that at this last week, I think it's the last Saturday, in fact, of January, be an opportunity for us to really get together and get to know one another. So I have talked about the first three questions. What is a Sangha? What is the role of the Sangha? What is the significance of the Sangha? And we touched on that last question, which is what do you receive from the Sangha? But maybe we didn't quite finish. So let's take a minute to see if you need to write something else about what you receive from your time in the Sangha. I was thinking of things like enjoying the company of the friends that come, enjoying deep relaxation, enjoying no stress, those kinds of things. But what do you experience when you come? And then while you're doing that, think about that last question. What do you contribute to the Sangha? And just write one or two things. It doesn't require an essay. Paul, you can go to number 8. Okay, now don't be alarmed. I'm not going to launch into a talk about the paramitas. I just want to talk about the first one, actually. I want to talk about some of the ways that we contribute to the Sangha. And the first paramita, well, let me talk about a paramita first. The word paramita means perfection or perfected realism. I likes to use the definite or the meaning that's found in the Chinese character for paramita. And the Chinese character means crossing over to the other shore. And to cross over to the other shore means that we have to take action. We have to do something. You can't cross a river without doing something. And so practicing these paramitas, these perfections, helps us to cross over to the shore of well-being, away from the shore of suffering and confusion and whatever else is happening, and over to the shore of well-being. That's what the paramitas signify. And there are 6 of them. I think I gave a talk about this not too long ago, but you can look it up if you want to know about the others. We're just going to talk about the first paramita, which is called Dana, D-A-N-A. This is the paramita that means generosity, offering, or giving. Dana is often misunderstood and kind of conflated with giving to the meditation center. It's understandable because we talk about fundraising a lot here, and fundraising is important for the health of the Dallas Meditation Center. And it's true that when you make a donation, write a check or whatever, it's directed through the Dallas Meditation Center. But your gift is actually an expression of the practice of Dana, your practice. And that's back up. Your generosity is a part of your daily practice, or could be, and perhaps should be. And it can be expressed in many ways. One of them is your contribution, your financial contribution, but that's just one way. For example, we are really blessed here to have many volunteers that generously donate their time to keep everything running smoothly here. On any given Sunday, including this one, there are at least 8 volunteers who greet people, set up the room, they facilitate, manage all the tech stuff, and speak. So 8 volunteers every Sunday when we come to practice. That's a lot of giving. That's a lot of generosity. It's one of the ways that you can practice Dana. So another way you practice is to be here. Your presence, your attention, your smile. Those are also ways to practice Dana. That's a way of showing generosity, giving support to the people that are here, and a smile to the people that are here. So actually your presence benefits everyone in the group, but it also benefits even people who are not here tonight. It benefits the neighborhood because we are generating a very strong power of love and compassion and acceptance. And it ripples out because you will carry it with you wherever you go in the next few days or weeks or months. And so what we do here and what you contribute is important, and that is Dana. So I'll go back to this kind of link between the meditation center and Dana. It's true that the meditation center benefits from your financial contributions, but the primary reason to donate should be your desire to deepen your personal practice. That's a way to have a transformational practice, to actually practice Dana in any of these ways that fit in your personal life and in your practice. Donations made, and I'm talking about financial donations, donations made from that spirit of Dana will benefit everyone. You, the meditation center, me, all of us. Meditation donations made from that spirit of Dana have many, many benefits. Perhaps you will have some questions about Dana or want clarification, and I'll be happy to provide that if I can. So I want to thank you very much. Thanks, Ty, for your teaching. Let's look at the last picture. This is our teacher, and I want to thank Ty for his teachings. And thank you for listening and for your personal presence. Bowing out. So in the time that we have left, which is a good 25 minutes, 20 minutes at least, I'd like to, if you would share, since there's so few of us, I'd rather we didn't divide into groups, but just share among ourselves, if that's okay with you. And perhaps you would like to share something about what you wrote. Maybe we'll just do the questions that you wrote about. And also, I wanted to share a couple of questions that that Cornell suggested. These are a couple of questions from Cornell. How does Sangha impact you in your daily life? And how do you nurture that? Those are good questions. I was talking to him about this talk, and those are two questions that he added.